Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star 2 origin continent based on novel. So let's start. The formless rules descended for just a moment before receding. Luo Feng looked at the palm of his left hand where a rule imprint had appeared. This imprint could connect to the rules of infinite space, allowing him to check his reward points information and exchange them for resources from the treasure trove. Earning reward points in infinite space is indeed difficult, Luo Feng mused. Repelling spiritual beings only awards maximum points the first time, which is 1 point. Each subsequent time, the reward decreases. I heard that after 100 times, each time awards less than 0.01 point. Infinite space highly values the forging of new great Daos, Luo Feng thought. And it places great importance on spiritual will. This is a treasure land left by the ancestor. It's apparent that his selection for descendants primarily focuses on forging new great Daos and on spiritual will. Perhaps how far one's cultivation journey can go is related to these two aspects. Luo Feng speculated. Standing at the ancestor's heights, he valued not the comprehension of existing great Daos, but the creation of new ones. Could this be related to something beyond the ultimate realm of God King? Luo Feng pondered, then smiled, one step at a time. The ultimate realm of God King was still very far from him. Across the entire land of origin, there were only a few at the ultimate realm of God King, about whom Luo Feng currently had no detailed information. Let's take a look at the treasure trove first. Through the rule imprint, Luo Feng began to access the treasure trove's resources, coming into contact with a vast amount of information instantly. Luo Feng had 101 points, allowing him to view resources information that didn't exceed 101 reward points. These reward points really last, said Luo Feng as his eyes lit up upon checking. Luo Feng first looked at the inheritance information. Ranked first in the inheritance, the 9 realms of extinction, first realm, perfection level inheritance, required 100 reward points for exchange. This is a perfect inheritance feasible across all origin worlds, corresponding to the first realm of Godly King. As a perfection level inheritance, it's actually impossible for Godly King level cultivators to fully master it, but even slight success is already remarkable. Danger reminder: the entry threshold for the 9 realms of extinction, first realm, is extremely high, requiring surpassing the Godly King's will to attempt cultivation. Otherwise, one will be assimilated by the great Tao of destruction origin of this world. What is this? An inheritance of the first realm of Godly King level requires surpassing Godly King's will to attempt cultivation. Luo Feng found it unbelievable. And it also says it's practically impossible to fully master. This was left by the ancestor. The ancestor dared say that no Godly King could fully master it. There must be a reason. The requirements for merely entering, with respect to spiritual will, show just how terrifying this inheritance is. Feasible across all origin worlds, theoretically perfect. Luo Feng sensed the hidden messages in these words. Ranked second in the inheritance, the 10,000 transformation divine body, the first 2 volumes, intermediate grade inheritance, required 100 reward points for exchange. Corresponding to the second realm of Godly King. Luo Feng carefully reviewed it and saw only 2 perfection-level inheritances. Ranked 6th in the inheritance, the Temporal Walker, first volume, perfection-level inheritance, required 90 reward points for exchange. This is a perfect inheritance feasible across all origin worlds, corresponding to the first realm of Godly King. The difficulty of entering this inheritance is exceedingly high. Of the over 10,000 exchanges to date, only 3 have managed to enter, all of whom surpassed the ultimate realm of God King. Danger reminders: 1. Surpass Godly King's will to attempt cultivation, otherwise there will be the disaster of becoming lost. 2. Comprehend all branches of the time primordial Tao and origin Tao of space before attempting cultivation. Forcing comprehension can lead to the calamity of temporal and spatial annihilation. 3. This Tao involves the fusion of time and space, requiring extreme talents in space-time paths, otherwise misfortune abounds. Why does it speak of boundless misfortune? Luo Feng mused, looking somewhat puzzled. These three danger reminders, especially the third, put it ambiguously. Not having extreme talent means boundless misfortune. No wonder, despite being a perfection-level inheritance, it required fewer reward points than 9 realms of extinction. It seemed significantly more dangerous. These theoretically perfect inheritances, even stating that it's impossible for Godly King level to fully master them, then who created them? Luo Feng secretly guessed that it might be some extremely terrifying beings, achieving incomprehensible realms to create these inheritances. Because they are too perfect, resulting in extremely high entry requirements. See a THOverfire.et website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Just by looking at the treasure trove, Luo Feng already noticed the difference between the inheritances exchanged between the two ancient countries and this infinite space treasure trove. The inheritances exchanged by the two ancient countries were left by two ancestors. They were not as high class as those in this infinite space treasure trove. But to exchange for anything in this infinite space treasure trove required a lot of reward points, which were extremely difficult to obtain. Luo Feng suddenly brightened and quickly continued to read, discovering a familiar inheritance. 8 Tribulations Life Form, First Calamity, Superior Inheritance, required 5 reward points for exchange, corresponding to the first realm of Godly King. This level of inheritance, divided into 8 calamities, is relatively easier for cultivation, and is considered superior among the Enlightenment lineage inheritances. Superior Inheritance. Luo Feng had already discovered it. This treasure trove's collected inheritances were categorized into intermediate inheritance, superior inheritance, special grade inheritance, and perfection inheritance. In the Flame-Wind ancient country, among the inheritances cultivated without external aid at the first realm of Godly King, 8 Tribulations Life Form, First Calamity, is considered the highest grade. However, here, it is only deemed superior. Luo Feng studied for a long time, carefully understanding all inheritance information and summarized some points. Perfection-level inheritances reach theoretical perfection, but have extremely high thresholds. It is practically impossible to fully master them, and just mastering a small part is already outstanding, Luo Feng concluded. Special grade inheritances also have extremely high thresholds. It's possible for those at the Godly King tier to fully master them, but the probability is extremely low. Maybe not even one Godly King in an entire origin world can cultivate to a higher realm. Just entering is considered difficult enough. Superior inheritances are suitably wide-ranging. Intermediate inheritances are typically cultivated by Godly Kings. Lower than these. Not worth mentioning. Inheritances like the Heart Shadow sect and the Duan Dong River lineage, which are merely left by the first realm of Godly King, are scarcely worth mentioning. Luo Feng, within this treasure trove, had taken a liking to one particular inheritance. World Life Form, Part 1, Special Grade Inheritance, requires 30 reward points for exchange, corresponding to the first realm of Godly King tier. This inheritance requires simultaneous cultivation of the Great Tao of Life Origin and the Origin Tao of Matter. Reminder, all 6 branches of the Great Tao of Life Origin, and all 8 branches of the Origin Tao of Matter, must be fully comprehended to gain entry. This inheritance involves treating one's own life form as the world in cultivation, with the ultimate goal of transforming one's life form into a source world, hence the high potential. The 10-directional world form I am pursuing now has similarities with this inheritance. My formless and intangible can substitute some capabilities of the Origin Tao of Matter. Perhaps I could try cultivating it. Luo Feng was very tempted. Because the philosophy behind this inheritance was very similar to his transformation method. Luo Feng thought for a moment, regardless, it ultimately encompassed all 6 branches of the Great Tao of Life Origin, and just contemplating this aspect would not be too much of a loss. Moreover, it should greatly benefit the improvement of his transformation method. Exchanged. Luo Feng immediately decided and chose to exchange for this special grade inheritance. A large amount of information was transmitted to him. World Life Form was created by an old friend of Yuan. This inheritance was divided into 3 parts, corresponding to the first realm, the second realm, and the ultimate realm of Godly King, these 3 levels of content. As for higher level content, it must be personally taught by Yuan's old friend. Excellent. As soon as Luo Feng received the inheritance, he was exposed to a massive amount of information. The creator of this inheritance had attained inconceivable depths in the research of life forms and source worlds. This inheritance, including the triune form, the 10-directional world form, the 24-aspected form, were just part of the many forms. The integration of life form and matter was particularly profound. This is what a special grade inheritance is, Luo Feng sighed internally. It was incredibly powerful. Although he possessed the transformation method, compared to the complete origin Tao of matter, it seemed weak. Luo Feng faintly realized that following this path would eventually lead him to a significant bottleneck. In the early stages, using the transformation method could indeed compensate for the requirements of the origin Tao of matter, allowing the cultivation of world life form, but in the future, I suppose I will still need to use 8 tribulations life form and world life form as aids to forge my own path, Luo Feng thought. Subsequently, Luo Feng sat cross-legged in the forest and began to study this newly acquired special grade inheritance in detail. Although the infinite space guides its entrants to forge their own paths, Luo Feng was keenly aware that he was only at the primal chaos realm, without true mastery over even one branch of the origin Great Tao. Forge a Tao. It could accumulate slowly, but he did not stress over it. Keep in mind, within the infinite space, most were godly kings, and there were even beings at the emperor level. They had profound accumulations, and could attempt to forge their own paths. This spiritual impurity. Every one of Luo Feng's avatars felt some pollution in the spirit. It was the lingering effect of severely injuring a spiritual life form in the infinite space, as various desires and prayers of countless creatures echoed within Luo Feng's spirit. Hiss tilde. Luo Feng, in his usual state, was deploying the destruction refinement method. With his own spiritual will as the foundation and the intent of all things and all forms of destruction, he employed the destruction refinement method, creating a world-destroying grindstone, aiming to completely erase his own spiritual power. His own strength, to erase himself. Thus, no matter how much Luo Feng's spiritual will improved, this heart-refining method remained effective. Hiss. In the past, when using the destruction refinement method to purify his spirit, Luo Feng always felt progress was painfully slow. But now, affected by a great deal of spiritual pollution, the effect of erasure was notably greater. Luo Feng also felt pain, as if bits of his soul were being peeled and crushed, though this was just an illusion brought about by the pollution. This signified the terrifying extent of severe spiritual pollution. Indisruptible through myriad calamities. Luo Feng suddenly gained a deeper understanding of the calamity beast diagram. In this treasure spot of infinite space, where the will and spiritual beings collided and became polluted, then erasing this pollution was itself a purification of the spirit. Each purification was another form of spiritual cultivation. Elder Yuan truly had deep intentions, guiding us to purify our spirits and forge our own paths. Luo Feng felt fortunate to have received this opportunity, which might seem ordinary to the imperial clans of the 2 ancient countries. Yet, Luo Feng felt that this opportunity brightened his forward path significantly, and based solely on this opportunity, he was even more confident about reaching higher levels in the land of origin. Eliminating all spiritual pollution indeed makes the spirit feel more ethereal, and the will more condensed. Luo Feng was secretly astonished, as just one purification noticeably increased his perception of improvement. The results were quite good. Apparently, the destruction refinement method was more suitable when combined with spiritual pollution. Subsequently, Luo Feng began to focus on comprehending this newly acquired special grade inheritance. At the border of the flame-wind ancient country, Xiangjie City. In a quiet room of the garrison mansion, Luo Feng sat cross-legged with a jug in his hand, taking a sip. The jug contained the Xingbing precious medicine, a cultivation aid he had purchased, made from Godly King exotic beast materials. After consuming it, Luo Feng felt his soul become much cooler and clearer. It's worthy of being a special grade inheritance. Luo Feng had spent tens of thousands of days to superficially research this special grade inheritance, world life form. Simply the guidance within the inheritance makes these 30 reward points very worthwhile. This inheritance was created by an old friend of Yuan. The creator's strength was too high, far surpassing the creators of 8 Tribulations life form, and extermination of 72 blades. Just a few words within the inheritance made Luo Feng realize some key points on the path of cultivation. Life within the braided cage has the origin Great Tao as a reference, so the difficulty of cultivation is relatively low. But outside the braided cage, cultivation is like groping in the dark, blazing one's own trail. The difficulty of cultivation is unknowably higher. Therefore, from a negligible state, one must enhance one's wisdom. Any aspect of a cultivator can be enhanced. Physical body, movement technique, wisdom, insight, soul, will. There are ways to cultivate all aspects, but insight is the most ethereal among them. Luo Feng quite agreed with this point. Insight is very ethereal. Among countless cultivators, it's generally augmented by consuming rarities like the primordial crystal spirit fruit, which nourishes the soul, and to a certain extent, can be considered an improvement in insight. Or when the spiritual will become strong. Once the spiritual will strengthens, insight indeed improves. Or by specifically cultivating the soul. The path of the soul is the toughest path, but a fundamental improvement of the soul's essence indeed brings about an elevation in insight. Or if the physical body becomes extremely strong, it will nourish the soul and make thinking more swift, which is also helpful to insight. But these are all indirect methods. How far one can journey on the Great Tao, insight is fundamental. How to improve insight? I have a method. Use the intricacies of a lower realm to create high-level secret techniques. Luo Feng also fully understood the creator's thoughts. For example, the Trinity form. If one intuits the 6 branches of the Great Tao of life origin, and uses the complete 6 branches, one could easily create the Trinity form without any difficulty. But if one attempts to create the Trinity secret technique with merely the intricacies of the pinnacle of primal chaos realm, the difficulty skyrockets immediately. This process of trial can gradually lead to a slow elevation in insight. According to the teachings of the creator of the inheritance, in cultivation, one should not deliberately pursue breakthroughs. One should continuously attempt to create high-level secret techniques from a lower realm state. Create 1, 2, 5, 10. When accumulated to a profound depth, even without deliberate breakthroughs, one day it will naturally happen. In the cultivation at the Godly King tier, there is clear guidance from the origin Great Tao. It is the best opportunity to refine one's insight. Once one surpasses the Godly King level, one is forced to grope in the dark. Many cultivators are used to having the guidance of the Great Tao. Suddenly groping in the darkness, progress becomes difficult. Not to mention completely jumping out of the braided cage. This expansive inheritance opened Luo Feng's horizons. Luo Feng's mindset had changed. Previously, he indulged in the primordial crystal spirit fruit, always yearning to master a branch of the Great Tao and breakthrough in realm. Now it seems, what's crucial is to train the ability to grope in the dark, to train insight. The breakthrough of the Great Tao realm is naturally occurring. My cultivation progress is already swift, there's no need to rush. I'll try, with primal chaos layer Tao intricacies, to create Godly King level secret techniques. Luo Feng thought, those who manage to create secret techniques and achieve transcending the primal chaos realm are such mighty beings. Luo Feng's Trinity form was a Godly King level secret technique. But he had only created one so far. I can also research materials from primordial bloodline creatures, study their life forms. Instantly, an avatar of Luo Feng, through the subdued world's entrance, headed to that subdued world. This world under garrison, named Xiangjie, teemed with life forms of primordial bloodlines at the primal chaos layer. Primal chaos realm strength signified that primordial bloodlines were already at their thinnest. If they degraded further, they would begin to lose the characteristics of a primordial bloodline. Huff, huff, huff tilde tilde tilde, a colossal creature resembling a rock sculpture lay prostrate, its breath causing storms. Its body sleek, Its immense cloven hooves rested there, with its head pillowed atop them. Suddenly, a man in black appeared nearby. The colossal creature suddenly opened its eyes and gazed at Luo Feng with its yellow pupils. A cultivator. The colossal creature looked at Luo Feng with wariness and hostility. What are you doing in our world? Get lost pronto. Throughout its years of growth, it had often seen cultivators enter this world. Occasionally, some primordial bloodline creatures were taken away, never to return. Boom. Luo Feng extended his hand, and a billion black rivers surged out, forming into a gigantic palm that clutched the colossal creature's neck. He then lifted the vast creature into the air. Let go of me, let go. The colossal creature was in a panic, looking at Luo Feng. Are you taking me away? I know, you cultivators always take away a batch of primordial bloodline creatures. Those taken away, they all died, haven't they? Indeed, that was the case. The primordial bloodline creatures taken away would have their bloodlines refined again and again, until they perished completely. They were bred and cultivated with the sole purpose of refining diluted versions of primordial bloodlines. I need to select some primordial bloodline creatures to take away. Luo Feng's gargantuan black river palm still clutching the creature's neck, said leisurely, however, as long as you give me some of your body materials, I can spare you. Give some materials and you'll let me go. The colossal creature being held by the neck, feeling the stark difference in strength that left it powerless against Luo Feng. Even in Xiangjia, the most perfect primordial bloodline creatures of the primal chaos layer could, by instinct, only contend with ordinary godly kings. Still, they were no match for Luo Feng at that moment. Yes, some materials. You must ensure not to destroy these materials with a mere thought. If you destroy the materials, I'll have no choice but to take you with me, Luo Feng said. The flame-wind ancient country will have envoys to guide the creatures. But these creatures, with primordial bloodline, can never discern whether they are the envoys themselves. In their eyes, all beings from outside their world are cultivators. Okay, I'll give it to you. The massive creature, facing the insurmountable gap in strength and without any resistance, willingly bowed its head. Very good. Luo Feng nodded in satisfaction. I'll select some materials. According to Luo Feng's request, a claw blade, a piece of skin membrane, a small segment of bone, some blood. Although there were many types, the amounts added up to be very minimal. The massive creature could fully recover in just a few breaths' time. Just for such a tiny amount of materials you'll let me go. It secretly felt fortunate. Luo Feng then regularly began collecting small amounts of materials within the garrisoned world. As far as the flame-wind ancient country was concerned, as long as these creatures with primordial bloodline were not killed, and the extraction of the primordial bloodline wasn't delayed, they wouldn't care how brutally they were beaten. Luo Feng might deceive, beat, or even directly capture them into the Star Tower. Capturing one creature into the Star Tower also struck fear into the other creatures with primordial bloodlines in that world, making them more compliant in handing over their materials. Of course, Luo Feng would encounter some obstinate creatures that, no matter how much they suffer, would not bow their heads and refuse to let Luo Feng study even a single drop of their blood. In that case, Luo Feng could only keep them imprisoned within the Star Tower indefinitely, which also served to maintain his infamy in this world, letting other creatures with primordial bloodlines know that refusal to comply with demands for materials would result in being taken away. Of course, if one day the envoys from the flame-wind ancient country came to inspect, Luo Feng would simply release the imprisoned creatures back into the world. As Luo Feng understood, envoys from the flame-wind ancient country would typically only come to inspect once every 1,000 eras, or even more seldom. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Time flew swiftly for cultivators immersed in cultivation and research. Era after era relentlessly passed by. The outside world believed that Luo He, who, by creating his own secret technique, became the first to transcend the primal chaos realm, with his strength, would likely stir up some trouble to garner sufficient benefits for himself. To their surprise, see a thnovelfire.nt website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Luo He became very low-key. He no longer took on any missions, didn't get involved in any conflicts, and even in Huyang City, Xiangjie City, and Chu capital, few cultivators were ever able to meet Luo He. In the blink of an eye, Luo Feng had been the garrison commander of Xiangjie City for 100 eras. In the Thunder Ancient Country, Zhuoshan City, this city belongs to Zhuoshanjin, the newly emerged transcendent of the primal chaos realm from the Thunder Ancient Country. As Zhuoshanjin had fully joined the Flame Wind Ancient Country and transcended the primal chaos realm, he was naturally granted a city. Primordial bloodline truly holds countless secrets. Mountain-sitting guest sat in a quiet room, appearing unremarkable as ever, his aura fully withdrawn. Primordial bloodline is like the most perfect weapon secret treasure, filled with endless mysteries of the great Tao. Mountain-sitting guest was also constantly studying the makeup of the primordial bloodline, exploring the mysteries of the great Tao within it. As he uncovered the potential of the bloodline, his mastery steadily improved, naturally reaching the transcendence of the primal chaos realm. For normal cultivators, transitioning to cultivate the primordial bloodline would bring about a metamorphosis in their strength. The weak primordial bloodline that I have come in contact with, even its remnants of spiritual will, are somewhat troublesome. The eyes of mountain-sitting guest faintly glowed red before he suppressed it. This will can be suppressed, but can't be eradicated. The remnant spiritual will, too high in stature. Mountain-sitting guest suddenly flipped his hand and produced a circular token. This is the latest intelligence from the master of the Shi Kingdom. A piece of information suddenly came through. Mountain-sitting guest's nemesis, led by the three monarchs of the Shi Kingdom with the Emperor of Tian Kuan at the forefront, is also the true ruler of the Shi Kingdom. In mountain-sitting guest's view, his disciple Luo Feng's talent was terrifyingly brilliant, and the other two monarchs pose little threat, and would not be difficult to remove in the future. However, the leading Emperor of Tian Kuan was more troubling. After all, the Emperor of Tian Kuan was a second-realm godly king. Even an emperor-tier figure wouldn't dare to claim they could completely kill him. His hatred ran deep into his soul. His kin, his wife were all too weak, lacking the ability to perform the reincarnation's secret art, and doomed to be completely dead. He naturally yearned to completely kill his enemy. The master of the Shi Kingdom has allied with many friends, ambushing the monarch of Yu country in the secret place Tianhe, forcing the monarch of Yu country to venture into the depths of Tianhe. The monarch of Yu country is in danger of having his true body fall. This piece of intelligence slightly changed mountain-sitting guest's expression. The master of the Shi Kingdom and the monarch of Yu country had always been at great odds. This time, the monarch of Yu country really suffered a heavy blow. The monarch of Yu country also transitioned to cultivate primordial bloodline. Countless resources have been poured into his body. If his true body perishes, his strength will be greatly diminished in a short time, thought mountain-sitting guest. The monarch of Yu country, if dead, wouldn't truly be gone. But without the true body and relying on a revival host to recover, he would need to buy a new primordial bloodline and new resources to cultivate again. The situation between the Shi Kingdom and the Yu Kingdom could completely change. Mountain-sitting guest was somewhat anxious. Judging by many actions of the master of the Shi Kingdom, he must have joined a powerful force, enabling him to repeatedly and quietly gather several godly king's second-realm beings to strike together silently. Strong in his own right, with quick assistance from companions. The more information the mountain-sitting guest collected, the more he understood the difficulty of seeking vengeance. I wonder how my disciple is doing now. Mountain-sitting guest knew that relying on himself, there was no hope. Reaching an invincible level in the first realm of godly king with the help of the primordial bloodline was already quite an accomplishment. But that level was still weaker as compared to the emperor of Tian Kuan. Not to mention entirely exterminating him. His only hope lay with his disciple. My disciple, with a universe so vast, a godly body so tremendous, has surpassed the history of the land of origin. He was able to master the Lai Yuan technique at a young age. After several decades in the land of origin, he is now the first transcendence of the primal chaos realm. However, over the last 100 eras, there has been little information about him. Mountain-sitting guest was also not very clear on Luo Feng's situation, and he had not planned to meet and acknowledge Luo Feng. In his plan, he would only recognize his disciple when Luo Feng's strength was at least comparable to the Emperor of Tianquan. This video will end here.